Oh man, oh man, oh man, Rod. 2-9 on the season, brother. Welcome back. I want to jump right into this, man. But people they missed you last week. They told me that I forgot to do the drum roll for you in your absence still, and they called me out. So I so I'm gonna give you a very, very, very special drum roll today, and then we're gonna kick it right off with Rod's thoughts. But what up, though, people? It's your boy Brandon Dent, aka Detroit Kool-Aid, and you're rocking out with the Woodward Pistons podcast on the Woodward Sports Network. Oh man, just actually left the Morning Woodward show with Jeff Freddy. He says, "What's up?" And he's gonna give some time this week as well to kind of just digest and talk about these Detroit Pistons. And we also got a special guest that might be coming to the platform, and I got to talk to you about that as well, Rod, so we can try and work it out that you can be a part of it too.
Special guest. Is it
Yes,
Jeff?
yes.
Is it Jeff?
Jeff will be gracing us with his presence as well. But I'm gonna tell you off right after this.
Okay.
Right after
all right.
the
that
pod.
works.
But
Hey, it's Jeff. I'm a special guest.
Welcome back, brother. It's listen, man. The people were looking in my eyes last week. I'll tell you. Let me get this drum roll started for the legend. You guys already know what it is. Hey, yo! Welcome and shout out to the legend, Detroit News, Rob Beer. That's the makeup for last week.
That's real extra.
Brother, man. Oh, I looked into the eyes of the people last week and I said, let me just level with them. I was okay. This is just one-on-one time. I'll break bread with you all, irregardless of what the rebuild is supposed to be, irregardless of the timeline. I did let them know I do feel the pain. It's going on 15 years of what they believe to be directionless basketball. Even if Troy can go out this summer with the cap space, even if the young players kind of use this year to learn and grow and develop, it's still tough on a night-by-night basis, especially for fans that are invested as passionately as they are. We know Detroit fans, to see them continue to lose, make the mistakes, and drop really some close games. I think that they've largely been competitive despite the injuries, but they are having some issues in the first quarters, and they're having issues down the stretch closing games. But I want you to take it away, man, with Rod's thoughts before we get into it any more.
I'm on that same vein as that. I won't say shocked. I'm surprised that things haven't clicked a little bit more. And this isn't a hat tip to the haters and people who have said, I told you so. I told you Troy should have been on the hot seat or Troy should have been fired. It's not that. This is a players thing. This isn't a coaching thing. This isn't a GM thing, that these are the wrong pieces and the wrong fits for everything. This is a coaching thing that we said the chemistry was going to be the biggest issue that they faced this year. And you can tell the chemistry just isn't right. And what's missing, it's that additional scorer that helps you in that first part of first quarters. It is having your shooters and everybody else. We thought Monty Morris would bring something. And I hate to say, it's the injuries again, but it kind of is. That's what we're looking at, that
Yep.
Jalen Duren has been in and out of the lineup. We talked about Bogey. Monty, Isaiah Livers is supposed to be giving you something. You're not supposed to be depending on Marcus Sasser as much as you are, and it's been a little bit surprising to see what he's been able to produce. But still, you want to bring guys along a little bit slower and have certain pieces there, and they just don't have that. And so you're going to struggle in first quarters, third quarters, and just with that starting lineup not being what it was projected to be because of the injuries, you're just going to struggle. And that's what it is. I'm just surprised at the level that they've struggled. And we said before that there were a couple of games that they probably could have won if they were at full strength. I'm just surprised that they have played as poorly as they have overall in everything they've done.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you started there. I didn't want to influence anything. I was curious to hear just your thoughts, because a lot of times I think that I said this on the Morning Woodward show, that their progress between this year and next year is not mutually tied to wins. That's not the
Mhm.
exclusive barometer for this year. If they were more of a complete team, a finished product by the organization and by Troy's admission, then this year would be it would be like, yo, raise the alarms. I also told them that if this was a season in which, they didn't have the cap space ahead, they didn't have the good young core that they do. Like, imagine if they were linearly picking one player after one player. I like the attempts that SVG did. I don't want to hate on him, but they didn't have young players or young capital or even cap space to be able to rely on. So when the stuff hit the fans, that was just it. There was nowhere to go. There was no hope. There was no cap space. There was no young core that's going to improve. But as it relates to what we're seeing right now in the court, it does get a little tough when you recognize and realize, man, this squad could have squeaked out 2 or 3 of these, more wins. Like, you think about that, like 2 or 3 wins right now makes them what, like 4-7, 5-6 right now, and that's a big difference. And so I definitely get it. I'm glad that you're telling the people as well, like, yeah, we see it, we get it. And you said you wanted to see how the squad went through the first 10 to 20 games of the season. Obviously, health is going to be a big part of that, but I'm hoping if this year is an assessment year, that I'm hoping the way forward is about getting Cade what he had his rookie season, and that
Mhm.
was a number 2 or number 1 scorer, somebody who could, like, effectively and efficiently handle the usage, handle the scoring, handle the defense. Every time that Killian went out the game, you saw Cade having to guard DeJounte Murray. And that's not going to be
Mhm.
beneficial to his legs. That's not going to be beneficial to his efficiency. Is what they talked about before the season. They identified when Cade has to have his usage up on defense and on offense, that brings down his efficiency throughout the game on both ends of the court. He starts picking up fouls. He starts getting frustrated. And they spoke last night, Monty, after the game. He spoke about them needing to value every single possession, but it's something that they're learning to value each and every possession. And Marvin Bagley, he went a step further and he effectively stated that, they're failing Cade Cunningham, that they have to be better as a team because they now know the book is out. I've been kind of I even got the opportunity to talk with some people yesterday and the days before and in the weeks at the Pistons practice facility, that they're running these kind of soft 2-on-2 zones, and you look at these plays, and I ask people, go back and look at it. When Killian Hayes has the ball, they don't do the same thing. When Jaden Ivey
Mhm.
has the ball, they are not. When Sasser has the ball, they're not doing the same thing. But when Cade has the ball, you start looking at defense. I'm like, wait. They were just playing man. Why are they shifting around the whole court wherever he is? And as soon as he gets to mid-range Cade, they're literally pressing hard and they're saying, we do not care who else shoots the ball. We do not care. You're not going to beat us. And I believe that
Yep.
that's kind of what's flustering him. I think that Marvin Bagley called it blitz attacks. They're basically blitzing him. They're not even just trapping. It's an
Yep.
aggressive show, hands straight up. They're putting bigger defenders to start on Cade Cunningham from the beginning of the games. They're trying to play a little bit more physical, and I think that that's good and bad. It's an ode to the type of player that he is. He commands that type of respect. But he, as it relates to personal accountability, has to know that that's going to be there. That means you got to get the ball out a little bit quicker. That means you got to be a
Yep.
little bit more on point and tight with your drop passes. There was a couple pick and rolls. The screen wasn't that tight. And when the screen's not that tight, then that means that both players are going to be able to trap you and make it more difficult for you to bounce past it between. He got it sometimes, got 12 assists, but he also had the 5 turnovers. And so, as it relates to what this team can do right now to at least show more improvement this season, he's going to have to tighten things up a little bit as his team makes themselves more available and better options to pass to. Like, and I keep telling people, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Rod, they're a young squad. Right now, they're playing majority of players that are on rookie contracts. And before they picked up Kevin Knox, it was people on rookie contracts and two-way deals. And then Burks got back.
Mhm.
Stewart, obviously, he's on his second deal and he's being paid effectively like what backups get paid. It takes a little bit of time for young players to learn and to develop, especially when it's on the fly. And they're also having to deal with the emotional counterpart that comes with that, the frustration that comes with that. What's your take on at least this young team kind of learning? Is it something that you're expecting to happen right away? Or is it something that you believe we'll start to see some type of improvement on kind of as the season goes on, whether they get more healthy or not?
Yeah, I think you're going to see Monty start to impact that a little bit more, and just to say, look, um, we got to figure this out slowly. And I don't think anybody, I mean, even the most ardent fans and supporters didn't say, hey, this is a 40-win team and they're getting to the playoffs. I think we said in the 30s maybe, but it is
Yeah, 30, barring
um, you
catastrophic injuries.
right. And is Bogey a catastrophic injury?
He's not, but
No,
when you
but
take all their vets, they equal one pretty big injury along with Duren in my
I,
book.
sure. And Duren being in and out, huge, because that takes your and I was talking to Mike about this the other day. With no Duren, it takes that role man and all of the exciting stuff you saw on offense in the first few games of the season with Cade and Duren together. When you take that away, it just takes one of his big weapons away, and his
Mm,
mid-range game and being able to find that big man. That doesn't look the same when you're rolling it with Stewart. It doesn't quite look the same when you're doing that with Bagley. You
mm-mm.
can still do it, but it's not that big man that's coming down from the rafters and dunking on you. It's a different type of feel that goes with that. So I think just this young squad is just going to have to figure it out. Um, and you look at the stats and you say, okay, they've got 9 guys who average in double figures. 9 guys. That's an anomaly. Certainly with Knox averaging 15, that's an anomaly. But it is there isn't, you need 2 guys to average like 20 to really try to make it and to turn a corner, and they don't have that. And you would assume that Bogey would be that second guy.
Yep,
And um it is just, it's going to, you're seeing little pieces of things that make you kind of go, huh, all right, all right. Asar averaging 12 and 10. Hmm,
hmm.
all right, that's something. And this is what I said a couple of years ago, and it probably doesn't apply as much now. But what you want from Killian, what do you think is an acceptable um, stat line from Killian?
I was saying a good 10 points, 6 assists, maybe a steal per game, and low turnovers.
Yeah, I said something like that to I remember saying that to Dwayne a couple of years ago, that people expect these big things from Killian, but if you've got the right roster around him, you only need him to average about 10 or 12 and about 5 or 6 assists.
Hmm.
And just like you said, few turnovers, and be respectable from 3. Be 30% from 3. Just respectable. And,
Yep,
and this year, he's something like 32%. So it's he's growing, the growth is there, but those are starter minutes and valuable starter minutes that you can't have that stat line from if you're not getting it.
exactly.
If you're getting 20 from Cade and 6 or 7 assists, cool. But you need Bogey to average that other 18 or 20 points. You need Duren in there. You need Stewart, who's at what, 12 and 7 boards and 42% from 3. You take that all day, every day. You want all of your starters to be averaging in double figures, but you need somebody to be, you need 2 20s and probably a good 15 or 16 in there somewhere.
I,
And
I'm
they just don't have that yet.
Yeah, I'm so glad you stated that because that was my thinking as well. Like on the morning Woodward show, I just talked about this with them, and I've been saying this that it's that Jeremy Grant of things. And when they swapped out for Bojan, that was still, as it relates to offense, that was the right mode of thinking. Two-way ability, not so much in my thinking, but in terms of giving Cade still somebody who could be that pure scorer, that dynamic scorer, that knockdown catcher, shoot 3-point artist if you need. He can also play the pick and roll. He can also create his own offense. He can do the
Mhm.
mid range. Bojan was that guy. And if he comes back healthy and can give you 50, 60 games, it's going to make defenses a lot more honest and a lot less, hey, we don't really respect any of the other guys here. You guys can play as close, but we know that when it gets down the stretch, we can take you guys kind of out of your rhythm and out of your comfort zone. And for a young team who's trying to learn to win and learn to play the right way, that becomes very easy to do when you're void of vets and when you're void of, like you said, that other punch score. It doesn't matter if Ivy might be able to put up 20 points every now and then. It doesn't matter if Killian Hayes has a game every now and then where he's putting up maybe 15 or 20 points, because that's just not what they do. They're not consistent with that. And you know what? I'm going to ask you the question because Jeff asked me as well, and we'll find a way now to make sure he has that presence on the show. He asked me, is this something that the Pistons can effectively fix by the trade deadline, getting in another score? And I'll tell you my answer. Mine was, I don't think so just yet, because right now, unless you're sure, like how they went and they traded Sadiq Bey, unless you are sure, I believe that it's going to effectively take one of your young players, somebody from your core or two, right now, because they can't trade their draft pick yet. It has not conveyed to them yet. When it conveys, then they're in a position to where they can trade it, but then they cannot trade next year's, but then they can trade the year after. My thought process was that by the summertime, they have the ability to then trade one or two first-round draft picks to better protect their core in return for taking on another team's junk, along with one or two players, solid players, or a big-time player. Like the New Orleans Pelicans, they're probably in the Bulls. These teams are probably going to start to unload, if not by the deadline, then by next offseason. Do you see there being a viable solution this deadline that doesn't bust up the core? And if it does bust up the core, do you believe that the Pistons, like what are your thoughts on it? Like I'm kind of torn down the middle.
Do you I need to see more before I can say that.
Yep.
Because if you're gonna, what do you have that you're willing to part with? And if you're saying Ivy is part of that, then maybe you might be able to get something for Ivy. But who else is who else is there that you can say, hey, we can package these? We don't know what Bogey is yet. We kind of know, but we don't know what he is this year. And I don't know what you have that teams want that's going to be a significant upgrade. And obviously when Zach LaVine's name came out the other day, that was a possibility that he might be open to being traded and the Bulls might be open to trading him. You look at that, you say, ooh, that's the type of score, that's the type of wing that you need, uber athletic, but then defensively, what are you getting there? If he's going to step in the starting lineup, are you rolling Cade, Assard, Bogey, Stewart, Duren? I guess. But then what Zach LaVine, let me humor myself and see what Zach LaVine's assist numbers look like.
Yeah, definitely.
Because that man does not like to pass the ball at all. At all. You're going to have to throw a quadruple team or a quintuple team for him to. 3 assists isn't bad. He's averaging 4.
But how much time does he get a game?
LaVine, 35.
Okay.
He's averaging 22, 5 boards, 3 assists, 2 turnovers game. But that man shoots 17.5 field goal attempts per game. 7 threes, 10 twos. And as I say that, because I was just shocked by Cade's numbers. Cade is averaging 6 threes a game and 20 field goals, but 6 and like 14.
Wow.
6 threes and 14 twos. That's out of necessity to some degree.
Wow.
Nobody else averaging more than 9 twos a game, and he averages 14.
And they wanted to be able to right that ship. They came into the season saying that they wanted his usage to go way down, his shot attempts to go way down, and for his efficiency to go up. But like you said, out of necessity.
I was going to say his usage has to be in the mid-20s. His usage is 30.6.
Is that the highest of his career to this point?
Let me get to some career. That man is 30.6
That's
on the usage.
crazy. That's crazy. And it's by necessity. It's not even like a situation of like shot chucking or anything. It's just when he doesn't have the ball in his hands, a lot of times the offense is a little lost. You see Marcus Sasser, he'll have some games, but then he'll have other games where he looks like a rookie. Jaden Ivey, I know a lot of people are saying give him more minutes. But even then, with the time he's getting, it's not as if it's world beating, world dominating. It's nobody else is realistically able to handle the aspect of responsibilities that Cade has to an effective standpoint, scoring wise. They might do some nice things, but as it relates to getting the ball into the hoop and attracting defense, there's not a lot of other people in this squad right now is currently constructed that can do that.
So his usage, his rookie year was 27.5, and last year in the 12 games was 30. So that's last year with that roster. I can see why he had to have a higher usage rate. This year is just, I mean, that's something. That's a number.
Yeah, and this 30% feels different than even last year's. Like last year's, I know some people start off injured, but I remember the ways that they were playing, and that 30 was realistically when he got on his stretch, and he was averaging that 28, 7, and 7 towards the back end of those 12 games that he played. It was a lot more efficient, and man, oh man, oh man, it was a lot more efficient, and it was a lot more kind of like along the line of the flow of the offense. It didn't look as if right now where the team is kind of forcing him into funnels, forcing him into tunnels, and for him to be able to go and get they're making it extremely tough. Like this is the first time in his career that I've seen Cade Cunningham defended the way that he's been defended. Seriously. And it's something that I'm hoping he figures out quickly. Like we talked about in the beginning of the show, but when you talk about Zach LaVine and you talk about his ability to be a flat out scorer, even though he doesn't pass, sometimes I do wonder if a player like that could help to break up some of the attention that Cade Cunningham is getting.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But what do you need to get a Zach LaVine? You're gonna need.
Speak on it. Be realistic, man, because it's not just this overnight fix.
What do you? LaVine's making 35. I'm gonna guess probably more than that. 30. Nope. 40 this year. 43 next year. 46 and 49.
That's LaVine's. That's his contract number?
That's his contract. He's got an option for 49 mil in 26-27. He made 30. He made 37 last year. That's what I was thinking about because he just signed his big deal. But that's a. You have to be convinced that he is that dude, or you have to be convinced that that's the best that you can get. So you're going to have to unload for the Pistons. You would have to unload. And they don't have a big contract that they can unload. Bogey. That's about it.
Yeah,
and if you can convince the Bulls that they're just going to have to reset everything, and you can give them Bogey and
Harris if they're looking to get cap space for next season.
Bogey Harris is you'd have to load up on some deals.
Yeah.
I mean, Wiseman, I guess you could throw in.
If they're looking to free up cap space and get from underneath that contract, if that's where the Bulls' mind is, if they're saying, you know what, we got some young players here that we like. DeMar DeRozan, I don't know how long he's going to be there either. If they're looking to just kind of reset things, because they're stuck, in my opinion, in a weird purgatory. I don't think that they're going to win with the lineup. That's the way, because a lot of people say, well, why would they take Bogey and Harris? Well, because they're trying to get their cap space and their flexibility back faster, sooner rather than later. that to me is really the only sale or play, because I don't know. And then obviously I feel like a young player would have to be at this juncture included, because unless the Pistons trade a future down the road first round draft pick, and I don't know how attractive right now that is for the Bulls. So it's
See the
you're
thing,
making me believe it's more doable though.
at the end of the day, they're going to want young players, picks,
Mhm.
and other assets. So you would have to do some type of third team in here to send them the picks that they want, because you just don't have it. And this is what we've talked about time and time again, that you need to have draft picks in the cupboard, and not just second round picks. That's fine for some deals. But if you're trying to make a blockbuster Zach LaVine type deal, you need a couple of firsts. And now you're locked into
Yep.
this. You can't trade any of your own picks. You're gonna have to go get picks from somebody else, and you don't have that. So you would need to get rid of probably 3 to 4 of your rotation players to get Zach LaVine.
Yeah.
And that's we were talking about DeMar DeRozan. He's on an expiring also. So that would be the Bulls saying, we are completely clearing the decks after this year. So we'll take some expirings. We'll be done with everybody, and we'll have a ton of cap space that we hope we can bring somebody else in. But if you're bringing somebody else in, what are you bringing them to if you don't have, I mean, what do you have? You're not that attractive at that point without LaVine and DeRozan. You got memory of Lonzo Ball. You got Vooch, Kobe White, Dosunmu. That's not something that I'm coming to if I'm a big free agent. That I mean, you're better off the way that you're constructed and keeping LaVine, and you can pull somebody into DeRozan's cap number at 28. That makes more sense to me. But I mean, if you're talking about Zach LaVine, he's probably going to go somewhere where he can try to win. And this ain't it. Unless you would have to convince him that he is that dude that is the difference between the Pistons winning and losing. That's not a super hard sale, because he can be your go-to guy. And he can play off of Cade, and Cade can play off of him. But again, defensively, what do you look like with those two? And how old is Zach LaVine? 28? I mean, he's got some injuries. He's got some tread on the tires. He's been in the league, what, 10 years? This is season 10.
Yeah.
I don't hate it, but it's going to cost you. It is going to cost you dearly to try to go and get Zach LaVine, and best believe the competition in there is going to be significant. Like, is you don't have it.
That's the thing.
You don't have what it
assets.
takes to go get Zach LaVine. That's it. You could try to build it, and you would have to give up maybe a Stewart.
That's what I was. Yeah, it's going to take a Stewart, a Bojan, the contract of Joe Harris, because it's expiring and it's big, and maybe another young player, because we can't
And
give them
maybe a bogey. So it replaces that money.
Yep. And gives him similar production if he's healthy, in terms of as a scorer. You know, there's a way that it could work, but you got to really, like you said, 4 rotation players, man. And you have to believe. You have to then go and say that Cade, LaVine, Duren, and Asar are it. At that point in time, you have to believe that that's your core, because nobody's coming and bailing the Pistons out of a LaVine contract. They're not going to just come and just bail. Oh, yeah, we'll take them. The Pistons would only do it out of a place of almost necessity or kind of like sheer desperation to a degree.
That would be Tom Gora saying, "Go get Zach LaVine," and Troy saying, "Wait, what? Is this scam likely? Is what?"
Oh man,
you
I would
know
not be
where
surprised though.
You know where Zach LaVine would absolutely fit, and They have all of the draft. I just gave you who it was. They have all the draft capital in the world. You see Zach LaVine in OKC with Shea and Giddy and Chet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That my goodness. Give them one more punch, a scorer like that, and Shea's running the show. You got Lou Dortz, you got Chet. That would make them pretty formidable, man. That would
That
make them.
that would. I mean, they got in last year. You put Zach LaVine on that team, and they could throw all of the draft picks in the world, and Chicago would just be like Chappelle, like Rick James, like, yeah, bring me all of the picks. But that's why
Man, it's like the
you
Pistons. They have a couple different avenues to try and improve things now. One of them is going to be if they can do something in this trade market before the deadline. The other one is if they can get healthy, get their
mhm.
vets back in there. Um, what do you believe this team can do aside from the vets and aside from health to try and improve things as well?
Make some shots. Don't don't turn the ball over 17,
Yeah.
18 times a game. I mean, that's simple stuff. I mean, it's just it's a 10 or 11 game sample size. And in fairness, we did say this schedule was scary to start the year. We did say
Yeah.
that. But at the same time, you got to win the games. When you get in a situation where you've got Golden State right there, you got to put them away. You got to win that game. And they just didn't do that. And that's when you know a team is starting to figure it out, when they can win those games that they probably shouldn't. And you look at the box score and you say, oh, okay. Or you look at the game and you say, hey, they played well from beginning to end, or they had a lead, lost it, but figured out a way to pull it out in the end. And they're just not doing those things. They're not playing well enough to do it. So that's where we are, bro. That's where we are. It's going to be a struggle bus until they can figure some of those things out. And you're going to see the losses like you've been seeing it. The in-season tournament, you got 2 losses already. Yeah, that's the end of that. Let's not even worry about it. That you're just not going to be able to play with the Sixers. And if you can't play with Atlanta without Trae Young, then what are you going to do? I mean, that's what this league is. You're going to have to be able to play against some of these tough teams who are shorthanded, and you're shorthanded, and figure out a way to win.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm glad that we're taking this approach. Like, it's a little bit more difficult before the games are played. All we can go based off of before the games are played are the trends, what they're setting out to do, what we believe that they can do, and ultimately that's why I believe we said, look, we think this team can, based on these first 20 games, we'll get a conception of who they are a little bit more. And if health plays a role, then health plays a role. It becomes a point where it's no longer something that we say, well, wait till they get healthy if they're not getting healthy. So hopefully they do get these vets back. I know at the shoot around, I've been able to see Monty Morris playing 3-on-3. He's almost back. Isaiah Livers was working out yesterday. I posted that. And I got a chance to talk to Monty Williams at the media availability for their last practice. And I asked him, how do you we know he wants to win. And he said, I want to be able to mix in vets and young players, and we want to be able to kind of reach whatever peak we can because we set a bar already to start the season when we were a little bit more healthy and a little bit more together and playing with a little bit different fire. And I asked him, how do you balance that along with the development of young guys kind of on the fly and keeping their mental together? And he said, from a mental standpoint, Cade and Stewart, they are as solid of a rock leaders as you can get. That they are not wavered by this. They're not faltering. They're not like, oh, woe is me and holding our heads down or anything of that nature. So it's
Yep.
like from that standpoint, I do believe that as this young team continues to learn, I do believe that this squad, not like necessarily the Lions of last year, because they were a much more complete team, in my opinion, who
Mm-hmm.
still had to go out in the offseason after last year and pick effectively 4 starters in the draft and then sign like another 2, 3, 4 starters in the offseason. That was a lot of overhaul that the Lions had to do to get the squad to where we see them right now. But they still made some type of a run in the second half of last season. I personally do believe that this team is primed as they continue to learn, as they continue to grow, as they continue to develop, as they continue to go over film. Troy said he picked serious basketball players on purpose. You look at Asar Thompson, that's a serious basketball player. He's somebody who takes basketball as if it's life, man. I remember at the media day at the open practice, and somebody asked him, "So after basketball, after you go home from practice, what do you do?" And he looked like a robot who froze, like, and he looked for a minute, and he was like, "You get like I got the audio." He's like, "Huh." He was like,
Huh.
"I uh I really just go back to the court and I start hooping again." That's the squad you have. And despite their youth, despite their mistakes, I do believe in this young core. I'm going to continue and continue and continue to tell people this. There's two birds of this, there's two wings of this bird. There's
Mhm.
one where you want to see certain progress this season, but there's one where Troy Weaver and this young core represent a little bit more about where this team is going than exactly what's going on right now. They're not mutually tied together. Their wins right now is not mutually tied to the future, because this squad could have, like we've seen Troy do, 6 new players on it by next year. And the new players that are going to be coming in are going to be less of the younger players, because to rebuild a team the way they have, 2 to 3 new young players a year, to be able to have a young core to build on of guys that are on all rookie contracts effectively, you got to go through some down years. But to be able to come out of that, you have to be able to properly assess and properly put the veterans around these young guys to lead, to take the pressure off, to be what Monty Williams said, to be a steady hand. And that I do believe in. This isn't no aspect of trying to cap for the organization. Like I said, if they were pressed up against the cap with no hope, and that their young players were not the players that we all can look at and say, look, Asar Thompson is that guy. Jalen Duren is
Mhm.
that guy. Cade Cunningham is that guy. If we couldn't say that, then it would be, yo, blow this up, start this over, get some new people in here. But because there is this aspect of this young core that you know what, if they did have a little bit of help, if you can say that, then all hope is not lost. We do want to see them improve though in this season. I told people I am disappointed right now. There's a couple games that they dropped, and I'm hoping that they're even more disappointed than me, because this
Mhm.
is on their record, you know. This is on their future. This is on what people are going to be able to do as it relates to, the hope of the team. I was encouraged by the amount of fans that showed up last night as things got, kind of close down the stretch. The arena got loud, and that's because Pistons fans are ready for a winner. I do believe that they see some aspect of hope from this team. I do believe that they see that this squad has kind of the right mix of young talent. This isn't like the old days where they picked Stanley Johnson. That's just it. 1 year Stanley, 1 year Sekou. You just paid Andre Drummond a huge contract, and now you're stacked up against it. Where do you go from there? What do you do from there? You're
Yep.
signing a bunch of middling people. You bring in Blake to be able to knock on the door of 40 to 44 wins every season, just to get swept out of the playoffs. With where do you go from there? This squad has a place that they can go. And I'm hoping that the observers, though I'm not telling you not to be disappointed right now, but I'm hoping that you can see this team has so much higher that they can go as it relates to player acquisition, drafts, utilization of that cap space. There are going to be teams like the Knicks who came a calling and said, look, we really, really, really want to sign or trade for this guy over here, but we need you to take our junk. But if I'm taking your junk, you also going to have to give me your draft pick, which is Jalen Duren. You also going to have to trade me Alec Burks. You also going to have to trade me Kevin Knox, among other players. I do believe that the Pistons are going to be the team that's going to be approached either at this trade deadline, 3-player deals and whatnot, to be able to make some things happen. Some players, some team is going to be wanting to say, you know what, I need an expiring contract. Joe Harris, even though he's not as attractive to this roster, and that's why I say there's two wings of the same bird, he will be an attractive piece to a general manager looking to get cap space, looking to be able to make some moves happen this offseason. Because you got teams out there right now that we thought before the season were going to be a little bit better, who we now realize they've sunk a lot of money into some players and it's not working out and it's not looking good for their futures. And they're going to have to do something about it.
And you know
This
who you
is a
can't
prime
say that
time.
about? And I'm heading out on this. You know who you can't say that about? The Pistons did not sink money into players who did not work out that they're trying to flip now. And so I agree with you in terms of being in a good, sound financial place. But I think they're going to try to add. But if you're talking big fish like Zach LaVine, you're going to have to pay a little bit for it. And it might hurt a little, but I think it's possible. I don't know if they go that far to do something like that. I don't know if Zach LaVine is that guy, but I like the idea.
I like Brandon Ingram, though, man. If there's a way to get him some type of way. Hey, Monty Williams, Willie Green. Come on, bro. You love Detroit. Willie, help us out, man. I know Zion, you can't just throw over the wall. But you telling me B.I. and somebody you can help out your former mentor? Your city's sake? Come on, Willie Green. Let us get that Brandon Ingram. And I like his name too. He has a great name, Rod.
That's it. Great. That's all I got for you.
We're gonna wrap it up, man. Let me get you drum rolled out. Great to have you back, man. I love having you on the pod. Like I said, you're a great person, a great individual, great at your craft. And I know the people enjoy it as well. So, guys, look, thank you for rocking out with the Woodward Pistons podcast on Woodward Sports Network. My name is Brandon Dent, a.k.a. Detroit Kool-Aid, and you guys already know what time it is. We're going to get the legend drum rolled out of here. Hey, yo! Shout out and thank you to the legend, Detroit News, Rod Beard, brother. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and blessings to you all as well.
All right. Appreciate you, bro.
Yes, sir.